Blessed be the reading of your word, Heavenly Father. Genesis chapter 38. Let's eat. And it came to pass at that time that Judah went down from his brethren and turned in to a certain Adulamite, whose name was Hira. And Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shua. And he took her and went in unto her. And she conceived and bare a son, and he called his name Now, that's a Canaanite. Remember, we go back to Genesis chapter 24, verse 3, and Genesis chapter 27. Abraham didn't want no woman from the Canaanites, didn't want Isaac taking no woman from the Canaanites, and Isaac didn't want Jacob to take no woman from the Canaanites, but Esau took one. And this whole thing go way back to when Noah and them got off the boat. And Ham's son Canaan was mentioned for some reason when it was talking about what happened in Noah's tent when he got drunk. So it's something going on with these Canaanite people. I think it has something to do with sex and perversion. I don't know exactly what went down, but it might have had something to do with Canaan and not Ham, because Canaan was cursed instead of Ham. All right, verse 3 here it says, she conceived and bare a son and called his name And she conceived again and bare a son, and she called his name Onan. And she yet again conceived and bare a son, and called his name Shelah. And he was at Chezid when she bare him. And Judah took a wife for his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. And Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord. And the Lord slew him, killed him. And Judah said unto Onan, go in unto your brother's wife, and marry her, and raise up seed to your brother. And this is the law of kinsman redeemer. If your brother had a wife, and your brother dies, but your brother didn't have no children, then you as his brother supposed to take his wife and marry her, have sex with her, and the firstborn son would be named after your brother, so his name would become carry on. This was called the kinsman redeemer. All right, so this concept is going to show up again as we move throughout the book. Verse 9. You can actually go find it at Deuteronomy 25, verse 5 and 6, but we'll get there. And Onan knew that the seed, listen to this, and Onan knew that the seed should not be his. So this law was already in place. Right now, we don't know nothing about that law. When we actually get into the law of Moses, it's going to come up. But you see it's here because it says, and Onan knew that the seed or the child should not be his. And it came to pass when he went in unto his brother's wife that he spilled it on the ground, lest that he should give seed to his brother. And that was his job to do that as his brother's keeper. He pulled out. He didn't do it in her. And he pulled out. And so look at verse 10. And the thing which he did displeased the Lord. Wherefore he slew him also. So Judah's first two sons got killed. Let's continue. Then said Judah to Tamar his daughter-in-law, remain a widow at your father's house till Shelah my son be grown. For he said, lest peradventure he die also as his brethren did. And Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. And in the process of time, the daughter of Shua, Judah's wife, died. And Judah was comforted and went up unto his sheep shearers to Timnath, he and his friend Hira the Adulamite. And it was told Tamar, saying, behold, your father-in-law goes up to Timnath to shear his sheep. And she put her widow's garments off from her, and covered her with a veil, and wrapped herself, and sat in an open place, which is by the way to Timnath. For she saw that Shelah was grown, and she was not given unto him to wife. So you understand, she was supposed to have a child, but it wasn't like she just got to go free, because she was now part of his family, of Judah's family. The firstborn son married her. Most High killed him. He didn't have no children. So the second son, it was his job to take on his brother's wife and marry her and give her a child to her. Well, he didn't want to do that either, so the Most High killed him. So Judah's third son was supposed to get her. But Judah at that time wasn't willing, or he didn't give Shelah to her, and he was grown. So this is why Tamar now put herself in this situation to go out to get pregnant by him. Let's continue, because it said in verse 14, Shelah was grown, and she was not given unto him to wife. It might have been because he thought she killed his first two sons, but it was really the Most High. I don't know why he didn't do that, because he was supposed to. Verse 15, when Judah saw her, he thought her to be an harlot, because she had covered her face. So a certain way the woman covered their face, that meant she was a prostitute back in these days. And he turned unto her by the way and said, Go to, I pray you, let me come in unto you. For he knew not that she was his daughter-in-law. And she said, What will you give me that you mayest come in unto me? So they negotiate. And he said, I will send you a kid from the flock. And she said, Will you give me a pledge till you send it? And he said, What pledge shall I give you? And she said, Your signet and your bracelets and your staff that is in your hand. And he gave it her and came in unto her, and she conceived by him. So now she's pregnant by Judah. Verse 19, and she arose and went away and laid by her veil from her and put on the garments of her widowhood. And Judah sent the kid by the hand of his friend, the Adulamite, to receive his pledge from the woman's hand. But he found her not. Then he asked the men of that place, saying, Where is the harlot that was openly by the wayside? And they said, There is no harlot in this place. And he returned to Judah and said, I cannot find her. And also the men of the place said that there was no harlot in this place.
There's ain't no hoes around here.
Judah said, Let her take it to her, lest we be ashamed. Behold, I sent this kid, and you hast not found her. And it came to pass about 3 months after that it was told Judah, saying, Tamar, your daughter-in-law, has played the harlot.
This is where we get when we say, she played out on me. She played the harlot. This is where that phrase come from. She played on me. She played the harlot. It's pretty self-explanatory. She played out on me. She played the harlot.
And also, behold, she is with child by whoredom. And Judah said, Bring her forth and let her be burnt. So now, pay attention to the language here. First, I want to go back to verse 23, 22, and 23. He's conducting intercourse or doing business with this harlot. But when it says, Lest we be ashamed in verse 23, and Judah said, Let her take it to her, lest we be ashamed, lest we be shamed. I actually think he said that because if he didn't honor his deal with her, he would be ashamed. Now, I'm not so sure, because he promised her and he gave her a pledge, right? And he was supposed to bring the kid. Then the deal would be complete. Her holding his bracelets and signet and his staff was just collateral until he paid her with the kid, the sheep or the goat, whatever they had. So I actually believe that's what would have been a shame. Maybe not specifically because he was dealing with a harlot. And I don't know. It kind of reads that way. Also, pay attention to Tamar in verse 24. Tamar, thy daughter-in-law, has played the harlot. So now, as we move through the book, this is like the law first mentioned. This phrase here is the first time it's been mentioned of somebody playing the harlot. And, we're going to read as we continue to the book. It's going to say, and she played the harlot. She's with child by whoredom. So she played the harlot because she was actually married into his family. She was married to his firstborn son. And, the first one died, second one died. She's supposed to be married to Shelah. But now she's pregnant. So she's technically committed adultery because she wasn't free to marry anybody else at this time except for Shelah. And we see here she played the harlot, which is a form of adultery in this context. And it's mentioned that she is with child by whoredom. So as we get further in the book, we're going to see too, those who played the harlot, it's typically adultery, and the Most High views them as a whore. So if your wife is out there committing adultery, in the eyes of the Most High, she's a whore. And there's plenty of scriptures we're going to read to verify that. Now, also, we'll notice in verse 24, that when Judah was told that Tamar, his daughter-in-law, had played the harlot and she was with child by whoredom, he immediately said, Bring her forth and let her be burnt. So when we get into the law, when certain individuals' wives get caught up in adultery, the punishment is to be burnt by fire. So as we're in the book of Genesis, we can see that these people are dealing with the law already. Pledges, the kinsman redeemer, all this stuff. The law is in Genesis. It's just not codified in Genesis. As we continue to read, we're going to see all this stuff that we read about in Genesis. It's in the law in Exodus, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, where the Most High gives the law to our people through Moses. All of this stuff is in Genesis. And remember, we already read that Abraham had the law. No, we don't have any record that he had written law, but I didn't say Abraham had a written law. Abraham had the law and commandments. So, and the book literally says that. I think that's Genesis chapter 26. I'll take you there really quickly. Genesis chapter 26. Yes, Genesis chapter 26, verse 5, it says, because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. So, Abraham had the law in Genesis. He obeyed his voice, and when we get into the law, you're going to hear that a lot. Obey my voice. I actually think the voice is a particular person, but we'll get into that later. You know, I'm thinking when it said, least we be shamed, that he wasn't talking about the fact that he was dealing with a harlot. I think he was talking about the fact that his deal wasn't going to be complete because, you know, he gave her collateral, right? Then the real payment was the kid. He was supposed to pay her with the sheep, the kid or whatever it was, right? But then they couldn't find her, so he couldn't actually pay her. So I think when he said, least we be shamed right there, that I believe he's talking about the fact that he didn't actually get her paid properly. Cause and not the idea that he was actually having sex with a harlot. But that's just my opinion there. I don't have no evidence of that. All right, verse 24. And it came to pass about 3 months after that it was told Judah, saying, Tamar, your daughter-in-law, has played the harlot. And also, behold, she is with child by whoredom. And Judah said, bring her forth and let her be burnt. Let me drop a little bit on this now. Now, as we move through the book, this is like the law first mentioned here, where it says she has played the harlot. You're gonna see that phrase over and over again as we go through the book. Like especially if somebody's wife commits adultery, or if when the Most High marries our people and we start serving other gods, worshiping other gods, he says we have played the harlot. And then he also calls us, whores. People who commit women in the Bible, as you're going to see, that are committing adultery, the Most High views them as whores. And this is the beginning of this right here. And you can see it right here. We're going to see it as we read through the book. And you see that Judah said, bring her forth and let her be burnt. Well, certain people in the Bible, depending on who you were married to, and I believe is if they were married to a priest and they committed adultery against a priest, the penalty was to be killed, and the method to be killed was to be burnt with fire. So what I'm pointing out to you again is that the law is in Genesis, and we know the law is in Genesis because in Genesis chapter 26 and verse 5, we read that that Abraham, the Most High chose Abraham because he knew that Abraham would teach his sons his commandments, his laws, and his statutes and his judgments. So that's how we know that Abraham had the law here in Genesis. He doesn't have the written law, but I didn't say he had the written law. He had the law. When Moses comes, he's going to have the written law to give to our people. So I just wanted to point that out because it's right here, verse 25. And the same way for that kinsman redeemer thing that we read about earlier. All right, in verse, with Tamar's other husbands. Verse 25 says, and when she was brought forth, she sent to her father-in-law saying, By the man whose these are, am I with child. And she said, discern, I pray you, whose are these? The signet, the bracelet, and the staff. So that pledge he gave for having sex with her, those were his things. So now he knows that she was the woman that was pretending to be a harlot by the wayside. And so she was going to die if they didn't find out that she was pregnant by him. So he basically broke the law by not giving her to his younger son. So he broke the law. So she fixed it where she would get pregnant by him. And this is important because this is Judah. His first two sons was from that wife of the Canaanite. And see, Tamar, I think the information says that Tamar was from Shem. Shem's line. I think Tamar was like Shem's granddaughter or Shem's daughter. So the Most High is bringing the Messiah through Judah's bloodline. I'm thinking he didn't want to bring the Messiah through the Canaanite bloodline. And that's who Judah got with. Remember, our people wasn't supposed to be messing with them Canaanite women. But for some reason, our forefather Judah went and got a Canaanite. So now we see, so it's like some wrongs are being corrected as the story's being told and as the story goes along. All right, so it'll become clear. I'll reference back to this stuff as we get further into the book. Verse 26, Judah acknowledged them. He acknowledged that the bracelet and the signet and the staff was his. Judah acknowledged them and said, she has, listen what Judah said. She hath been more righteous than I, because that I gave her not to Shelah, my son. And he knew her again no more, meaning he never touched her again. Judah never touched her again. And it came to pass in the time of her travail that, behold, twins were in her womb. And it came to pass when she travailed that the one put out his hand, and the midwife took and bound upon his hand a scarlet thread, saying, this came out first. And it's important that which one came out first because of the law of the birthright. You know, the firstborn, the law of the firstborn gets the birthright. So it was twins in there, so that one came out first. They tied the string around his hand real quick so they know that's the one that broke out of the womb first. He's the firstborn, because there's stuff that went along with that, blessings and stuff. And 29 says, and it came to pass as he drew back his hand that, behold, his brother came out. And she said, how has you broken forth? This breach be upon you. Therefore his name was called Pharez. And afterward came out his brother that had the scarlet thread upon his hand, and his name was called Zara. All right, so now peep out what took place here, and look at how the Most High balances things out. Judah went and got with a Canaanite woman he was not supposed to. So the Most High actually killed his first two sons. Killed them. Yeah, that was before he got with Tamar. Yes, the Most High killed his first two sons before he got with Tamar. So he ends up sleeping with Tamar, thinking she's a harlot, and gets her pregnant. And the Most High gives him twin boys back. You see, the Most High gives and he taketh away. He had two boys. The Most High killed him. He gave him two boys and set things in order to set the bloodline straight for because this is the bloodline that the Messiah is going to come through. Now, right now, we don't know that. I know that because I know what's coming in the book. So when we get there, and we're going to talk about what Judah does and why he was chosen as the bloodline that the Messiah would come through. And I'm going to tell you it has something to do with Abraham's heart. And also going to have something to do with Judah's heart. But we already know that Judah was the one who spoke up to sell Joseph into slavery. So we're going to peep all that out, man. It's going to be very interesting when we get to that.